On April 15, 2021, Indianapolis, Indiana, was the site of a horrific mass shooting that left 8 people dead and 5 others injured at a FedEx ground facility. The perpetrator, 19-year-old Brandon Scott Hole, shocked the nation not only with his brutal actions, but also with the bizarre details of his life and motivations. Known as the Brony Killer due to his obsession with the children's animated series, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Hole's story is one of escalating violence, untreated mental health issues, and a systematic failure of the methods meant to prevent such tragedies. This is the story of the Brony Killer. Brandon Scott Hole was born on August 20th, 2001, in Indianapolis. From an early age, Hole exhibited signs of severe behavioral and mental health issues, diagnosed with disruptive behavior disorder and generalized anxiety disorder at the age of 10, and later with autism spectrum disorder in 2015. Hole's childhood was marred by instability and violence. His father committed suicide when Hole was just 4 years old, an event that left deep emotional scars throughout his childhood and teenage years. Hole's behavior became increasingly erratic and violent. He had numerous run-ins with the law and exhibited a fascination with mass shootings. His mother, Sheila Hole, sought help for her son, but despite various interventions, his condition worsened. Hole's obsession with the My Little Pony series, particularly the character Applejack, became a focal point of his increasingly disturbed mental state. Hole's descent into violence culminated in March 2020, when his mother reported to the police that her son had purchased a shotgun and expressed a desire to die by suicide by cop. The police responded, seizing the shotgun and placing Hole under a temporary mental health hold. During this intervention, officers discovered white supremacist websites on Hole's computer, further raising alarms about his potential for violence. Despite these red flags, the FBI's investigation concluded that Hole did not pose a threat of racially motivated violence. The shotgun was never returned to him, but this did not prevent Hole from legally purchasing 2 AR-15 style rifles in July and September of 2020. The failure to fully utilize Indiana's red flag law, which could have barred Hole from purchasing firearms, was a critical oversight that would have devastating consequences. On the night of April 15, 2021, Hole drove to the FedEx ground facility where he had previously worked. Arriving during a shift change, he first spoke with security before returning to his vehicle to retrieve his weapons. Hole then began his rampage in the parking lot, firing at employees with a rifle. He continued his assault inside the facility, methodically shooting anyone in his path. The entire attack lasted less than 4 minutes, but the damage was catastrophic. Hole killed 8 people, whose ages ranged from 19 to 74, and injured 5 others before taking his own life. The victims included 4 members of the local Sikh community, highlighting the diverse and close-knit nature of the workforce at the FedEx facility. However, the immediate aftermath of the shooting was one of chaos and grief. Families of the victims, the community, and the nation grappled with the horror of what had happened. President Joe Biden ordered flags to be flown at half-staff and condemned the string of mass shootings as a national embarrassment. Vigils and memorials were held to honor the victims, and the community came together in mourning. What truly shocked the nation was the information revealed by the investigation into Hole's background and motivations behind the shooting. Not unlike the infamous Sandy Hook elementary school shooter just 12 years before, leads revealed a deeply troubled and mentally down-spiraling individual whose warning signs had been missed or inadequately addressed. Hole's final Facebook post, expressing a desire to be with the character Applejack in the afterlife, underscored the bizarre and absolutely deluded nature of his mental state. His fascination with My Little Pony and the character Applejack became an unhealthy obsession, indicative of his desire to escape reality and find solace in a fantasy world. This obsession, coupled with his fascination with mass shootings and white supremacist content, paints the exact picture of a broken little boy in a young man's shell, seeking to assert control and achieve notoriety. Sadly, he achieved his dream, and both his fantasy of an afterlife and worldwide infamy, his name still briefly and venomously spoken of in reflections of many insane years gone by. Hull's actions on the night of the shooting suggest a desire to end his life in a manner that would leave a lasting impact. The FBI concluded that the massacre was an act of suicidal murder intended to demonstrate his masculinity and capability, while fulfilling a final desire to experience killing people. This chilling assessment highlights the complex interplay of mental illness, violent fantasies, and a desire for recognition. While Hull is ultimately responsible for his actions, the role of his family and community in this tragedy cannot be overlooked. Sheila Hull's efforts to seek help for her son were met with limited success, pointing to systemic failures in addressing severe mental health issues. The lack of follow-through on the red flag law and the inadequate mental health interventions reflects broader issues within the legal and healthcare systems. The community and law enforcement agencies also bear some responsibility for not fully addressing the warning signs. The discovery of white supremacist websites on Hull's computer and his previous threats should have prompted more aggressive intervention. This case underscores the need for comprehensive mental health support and more robust mechanisms to prevent individuals with clear warning signs from accessing firearms. The case of Brandon Scott Hull raises profound ethical questions about mental health, gun control, and the responsibilities of society in preventing such tragedies. Should individuals with severe mental health issues be allowed to purchase firearms? How can society better identify and support those at risk of committing mass violence? These questions highlight the need for a multifaceted approach to addressing the root causes of mass shootings, rather than the typical stance taken by many individuals, organizations, and media outlets around the world, which often fall to one of only a few perspectives: heavily sympathetic, heavily apathetic, or heavily politicized, with the third often acting as its own multifaceted can of worms. Brandon Scott Hull's journey from a troubled youth to a mass murderer reads like a tale from the darkest corners of a horrific thriller novel. His life was a series of escalating nightmares, each more grotesque than the last, culminating in an act of unspeakable violence, all for the purpose of transcending this material plane to meet with the idealized hallucination of a fictional character not belonging to this world, but the world from within of a mere television animation. The psychological torment he experienced, compounded by his obsessive fantasies, created a void that consumed him entirely. In the end, Hull became a monstrous figure, both a victim of his inner demons and a perpetrator of inescapable misery for all affected. As we ponder the implications of his actions, we must confront the unsettling truth that such darkness lurks within all of us, waiting for the right conditions to emerge. This chilling realization forces us to reevaluate our approaches to mental health and community support to prevent other souls from succumbing to their inner horrors. If you thought the tale of Brandon Scott Hull was haunting, then you won't believe the delusional insanity from the northern plains of Wisconsin. The infamous attack on a teenage girl, more popularly known as the Slender Man stabbing, will take you into the twisted minds of two young girls driven by the fictional horror figure to fall into a down spiral of unholy proportions. This is a journey into the shadows of the adolescent mind, where reality and fantasy blur in the most disturbing ways. Subscribe if you're brave enough to unravel the next harrowing chapter in our exploration of true crime.